welcome back to Mr. Moher Music. That was a small snippet of a piece of music called Equinox, and it was composed by today's jazz artist, John Coltrane. Now let's get started with John Coltrane straight away, shall we? He was surrounded by music from a young age. His father was a tailor, but had a great interest in music and played instruments himself. By his early teens, John Coltrane had picked up the alto saxophone and had a great talent for playing it. By 1943, Coltrane decided to move to Philadelphia and have a go at being a full-time musician, but due to the war he had to enlist to the Navy, and he was stationed in Hawaii. And while he was there, he formed a quartet with some of his fellow sailors and performed quite a lot. After the war, Coltrane worked with loads of great jazz artists, especially in the 1940s. So he worked with Dizzy Gillespie and a name that I've mentioned quite a lot already, Duke Ellington. And during this time he changed from playing the alto saxophone to the tenor saxophone, which is a lower pitch saxophone. In the 1950s, John Coltrane joined Miles Davis's band, hopefully you remember Miles Davis, and recorded a few albums with them, including the new Miles Davis and Kind of Blue, the one we looked at in the Miles Davis session, that So What song. He also worked with the great pianist Thelonious Monk, and also John Coltrane had many solo projects that he did as well. Loads of albums including Blue Train, Soul Train and Giant Steps, which he released in 1960. It was groundbreaking, and he wrote all of the songs on that album himself. And John Coltrane kept writing songs until his death in 1967. But look at all those instruments that he played: tenor saxophone, soprano saxophone, alto saxophone, flute and bass clarinet. Well, today's listening piece you might recognise from when we looked at Keith Jarrett. It's Green Dolphin Street, and if you remember, it was composed in 1947 by Miles Davis. It's a great piece. We heard it last time. It goes like this. You remember that? So let's have a look at the way that Coltrane does it. Now, in 1960, John Coltrane was on tour, so performing with Miles Davis on a regular basis. And Miles Davis decided to take the night off. Don't know why, he just decided that he would. So Coltrane took on the role as band leader and led the songs. And this version of Green Dolphin Street is very different to the Keith Jarrett version. It starts with Wynton Kelly on the piano, playing a variation on the theme, so he doesn't play that main tune that you know, he plays something a little bit similar. And then when the drummer Jimmy Cobb comes in, so does Coltrane with the main theme that you'll recognise, the da 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 da, and then followed by Paul Chambers on double bass. And so you've got all of those different things. So you've got the main tune, and then you've got an improvisation played by Coltrane based over those chords and that music. Then the pianist Wynton Kelly, he does a solo. Then Paul Chambers does an amazing double bass solo. And finally then John Coltrane comes back in. Now when I look at artists, I normally get you to listen to two pieces by the same artist to kind of compare the different styles, but it's a bit tricky with John Coltrane. He composed in kind of lots of different styles of jazz, but there's not that many live videos of him, and I think it's quite good to watch live. So I've decided we're going to listen to another version of On Green Dolphin Street instead. And this version is by Chick Corea. And in this it's a traditional jazz trio, so piano, double bass and drums. And you'll see that Chick Corea starts with this long extended intro using techniques inside of the piano. So you'll see him put his hand on the strings and play the keys. It mutes the sound and it sounds very different. It's really interesting. Now, in this version, the piano takes a huge chunk of the soloing and improvisation, but the double bass gets a chance, and the drums do a bit as well. One more thing about this performance really is to look at the drummer. So he doesn't kind of conform to normal jazz playing. It's more kind of rock, and Chick Corea is well known for electric music. So this kind of combines his love of electric music and traditional jazz without the electric element. Now that sounds really confusing, but you'll see you've got rock and you've got jazz kind of mashed together for this very simple performance. Now, that's your two pieces to compare. Absolutely fantastic. I love John Coltrane, I love Chick Corea, both fantastic jazz artists, and I think you can have great fun comparing these two pieces.